Straight ahead on the national desk, education overhaul from failing grades to widespread learning loss. What a second Democratic term could mean for our nation's public schools. Critics calling out the Democratic endorsements and anti-Israel rhetoric at a national convention this week for one of the nation's largest teachers' unions. Politico reporting Vice President Kamala Harris could soon become the standard bearer for the Democratic Party's policy priorities when it comes to America's public education system, including student loan bailouts. And joining us this morning with more on this is Parents Defending Education's Director of Outreach, Erika Sanzi. Good morning, Erika.
Hi, Jan.
So the head of the American Federation of Teachers, Randi Weingarten, has endorsed VP Harris, calling the administration the most impactful in her lifetime. Some parents would agree it has been very impactful for them as well, with what some have said is a generation of learning loss and failing grades. What would education look like under a Harris administration?
Well, I think that the images coming out of the convention of Kamala Harris embracing, literally, Randi Weingarten, it is really illustrative of what we're going to see. It's going to be a love fest between the union and, you know, Kamala Harris if she wins the presidency. You could tell during the speech that she was lathering on the praise of Randi, calling her a force, as if that was a positive thing. But what we know is that, you know, Randi Weingarten really used her influence to make sure that schools stay closed. And in some places that meant that they were closed for over 18 months. So there's a lot of problems, I think, for parents and for the public when they hear any candidate this committed to talking about labor, their support for labor, their support for unions, and then using an event like this as a stump speech when what they see is plummeting enrollment in the public school system, unprecedented learning loss, school choice on the ascendancy. She really could have spoken to concerns about families and parents have, and instead she gave her usual stump speech. And to me, it's just a sign that there's a lot of red flags with her when it comes to K-12 education.
This is going to be interesting because one of the VP contenders, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, is for school choice. So I read this morning that several teachers unions have already asked Harris not to consider him specifically because of that. Meantime, the American Federation of Teachers, as well as the United Federation of Teachers, have drafted anti-Israel resolutions calling for an end to sending U.S. military aid to Israel and also to protecting anti-Israel protesters that disrupted campuses. A coalition of pro-Israel educators condemned those resolutions. They call them anti-Semitic. What did you make of this?
Yeah, so with Josh Shapiro, there's a few things going on. He did come out in favor of school choice last session, but then at the last second kind of like did a little bit of a flip-flop on that. So he managed to, I think, get everybody mad on that issue. I certainly hope that he decides to support that in the future. But there's also been a lot of criticism of him potentially being on the ticket because he's Jewish. And unfortunately, there is this sort of like segment of the Democratic Party that at the moment has a problem with people who are Jewish and doesn't want him on the ticket. So that's concerning as well. I just totally lost my train of thought with the second part of your, the resolutions. Yeah, so there were a bunch of anti-Israel resolutions. I think there might have been 8. Randi Weingarten did come out and endorse one of them, which was supporting a ceasefire. And that one did pass. There's another one that passed that was about ending the war in Gaza. But again, putting aside the merits of these resolutions, we do have to wonder why, when again, we have K-12 education in such a downward spiral, why is this group focused on geopolitical issues that are taking place far away while in their classrooms, they literally have students who cannot read, who cannot do basic math, and whose chronic absenteeism has reached unprecedented levels. Like, I just don't understand the focus at all. And I think it's a turnoff to a lot of people.
And that's the sentiment that we're hearing from a lot of teachers as well as a lot of parents. Parents Defending Education's Director of Outreach, Erika Sanzi, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Jan. Have a good weekend.
You too.